Suzanna Hupp, former representative. She's a survivor of the Luby's massacre. Some of her family was killed. She famously testified before Congress to Chucky Schumer that, hey, our guns aren't for duck hunting. The full testimony's up at Infowars.com right now. We just reposted it up there. She said, it's to protect us from you guys up there. And I wanted to get her on the air because she was instrumental nationwide, testifying before legislatures everywhere, not just the Texas legislature that she later chaired committees on, to get concealed carry in. And we've seen 25, 30% or more reductions in every state that's done it. So she'll be joining us till the bottom of the hour here in just a moment. Here is just a short excerpt of her testimony before Congress.
The Second Amendment is not about duck hunting. And I know I'm not going to make very many friends saying this, but it's about our rights, all of our rights, to be able to protect ourselves from all of you guys up there.
Man, and boy, that was what, back in the mid-1990s, and here we are in 2013. Great way to kick off the new year with a champion of liberty, who I've got to say, if any one person got concealed carry in, you can say what you want about it turning a right into a privilege. The point is that it put guns on the street in law-abiding citizens' hands, and the criminals are keeping their heads down. Violent crime down over 20% nationwide on average since then. We've shown the new FBI statistics. Except in areas where they've taken the guns, crime is up. Former representative, talk show host on 590 AM, you name it, best-selling author. Mrs. Hupp, good to have you on with us.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, Alex.
Wow, I am excited. What's your take on everything that's happening and the open calls now in the Feinstein bill to physically make you turn guns in?
It's a scary thing, isn't it? I've talked to a lot of friends of mine who we all kind of talk big. You know, you hear the from my cold dead fingers comments. But the truth of the matter is, if a bunch of jackbooted thugs show up at my door and put a gun to my child's head and says, turn over all your guns or else, I'm probably going to turn over my guns. You know, so I think it's really important, and I think this is why so often revolutions are mostly about young people and young people without extended families. You know what I mean? It's a scary world right now.
It certainly is, but there's 160+ million gun owners. If 1% fight back, that's 1.5 million soldiers. I agree, most people are going to turn them in, at least in the first wave, but the tyranny that follows is going to result in a civil war. And if you notice all the branding of Obama as the new Lincoln and how he's going to kick the butt of the states, it's pretty creepy.
It is. It's very frightening. And, when I talk about people turning in their guns, I think there are an awful lot of people that are going out of their way to purchase guns that don't have a track record, that can't be traced to them. And those guns are going to be hidden and buried all over the place. And, we might be some of those people. Alex, you and I are going to be the first doors that they knock on.
You're right. They're going to try to make examples of people. Why do you think, for listeners that just joined us, we have the clip, Dianne Feinstein and others are saying, Mr. and Mrs. America, get ready to turn your guns in?
Why do I think she's doing that? I think because she's absolutely clear that she has the backing of the president, and she now has, I would say, 70% of the media firmly behind her. You know, I was actually sitting getting a manicure a few days ago, and there was a lady kind of across from me, somebody I didn't know at all, and she got to talking about the guns and the shooting in Connecticut, and she turned to me and said, well, I just think we should get rid of all the guns. What do you think? Of course, that was a mistake, right? No, I took it very easy on her, and I didn't tell her any of my background or anything. I simply said, well, I've thought about it, and it seems to me that not one single one of these mass shootings has ever occurred where guns were allowed. And she stopped, and she kind of blinked, and she got up, and she went and washed her hands, and then came back and sat down and looked at me, and she said, I never thought about that, but you're right. So I think there are an awful lot of people out there that you can't grab with statistics. You can't grab with logic. I think there are a lot of people out there that you have to put them in a position of being, as close as you can, put them honestly in the position of being completely helpless, and then ask them if they would rather have somebody with them, even if they choose not to have a gun, if they would rather have somebody with them that knows how to use one or not. You know, even if they won't defend themselves, most people are willing to defend their child. So I do my best to talk about that sort of thing.
I know it's hard for you to talk about it, but you do to save other lives. And I've got to commend you again. As you know, and people can pull up the uniform crime statistics. Since concealed carry became ubiquitous in most states, crime rates on average around 24 to 25%. National, it's only about 20 because of some of the gun-free zones like Chicago and New York. But the Luby's massacre was a mass murder that took place October 16th, 1991 in Killeen, Texas, United States, when George Hennard crashed his pickup truck through the front window, got to ban pickup trucks, on a Luby's cafeteria and shot 50 people, killing 23. Exchanged shots with responding officers and then hid in a bathroom and fatally shot himself. You were there. You lost your parents. I know it's tough to talk about, but we've now seen fathers that lost children in the last few shootings come out and say, don't use this to take people's guns, but the media tries to ignore them. You as a survivor, I mean, you more than anybody have a right to lay out the record. Can you, for people that don't know, describe what happened and what would have happened if you would have had a firearm?
Well, to try to keep it brief for you folks, my parents and I was about 31, I think, at the time. I just dated myself. My parents and I had gone to a local cafeteria, and we were actually eating with the manager of the cafeteria. The place was packed. It was boss's day. It was the day after payday, middle of the day, beautiful day. And this guy drove his truck through the window. It was a floor-to-ceiling window, and crashed into a number of tables and came to a jerking halt pretty much in the middle of the restaurant. And, of course, you think it's an accident. And we began to rise up to go help the people they had knocked over, and we heard gunshots. I was on the passenger side of the vehicle, and it was maybe 15 feet away from me. My father and I immediately got down on the floor and turned the table up on its side in front of us. My mom was down behind us. And the shooting continued. We realized this was 1991, and these mass shootings weren't occurring back then, so it wasn't the first thing that comes to your mind. We were waiting for him to say something like, all right, everybody put your wallets up on the table, or something like that. But that didn't happen. He just kept shooting. And when he worked his way around the front of the truck and he was working toward us, a full, I'm going to say 45 seconds had passed, and I realized he was just executing people. And it took 45 seconds. Alex, 45 seconds is an eternity. When I did realize that, I reached for my purse that had fallen on the floor next to me. I thought, I've got him. I've got this guy. I used to carry a gun in my purse illegally because an assistant DA out of Houston that was a patient of mine convinced me to carry it illegally. But I did like most people. You know, you think, what are the odds? If I need a gun, it's going to be if I break down on a back road somewhere. It's sure as heck not going to be in a crowded restaurant in the middle of the day. But my gun was 100 yards away in my car where I had begun dutifully leaving it. So long story short, at that point, my dad started to break free from my grip and said, I've got to do something, and I've got to do something. He's going to kill everybody in here. And he made a run at the guy, and the guy just turned and shot my father in the chest. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to make it a short story.
No, and it's important. Thank you for sharing it.
The good news with that, my dad was mortally wounded. I mean, he had covered maybe half the distance. He was 7-8 feet from me, but he was still alive. The good thing about that was it made the gunman change directions, and he had to go off to my left instead of continuing directly toward me. Somebody way at the back of the restaurant broke out on one of the windows back there and began to escape through that window. People were able to escape that way. We were kind of up in the front corner and couldn't get out. When I saw what I thought was a chance, the gunman had his back turned toward me. I stood up. I grabbed my mother by the shirt collar. I said, come on, we got to run. We got to get out of here. And my feet grew wings. And to circle it back around, my mom did not follow me out, and I didn't know that. until after, literally, I was outside of the restaurant.
She was staying with your dad, wasn't she?
The police officers later told me what happened to her. They said that, and a number of them were patients of mine, and they took me and my family to lunch about a week later and told us. They said that when they got into the front, they saw a woman on her knees cradling a mortally wounded man. And they didn't know who the gunman was. And they saw this 30-something-year-old man walk up to her. They said he put a gun to her head. She looked up at him, put her head down, and he pulled the trigger. And they said all they had to do was fire a shot into the ceiling, and this guy rabbited to a back bathroom alcove area. And as you said, exchanged a little gunfire with him and then put a bullet in his own head. My parents had just had their 47th wedding anniversary a couple of weeks prior to this, and it just didn't occur to me while I was running. Mom wasn't going anywhere without Dad. So I was really angry, Alex. I was really angry. I felt very guilty. I was very angry. I know people think I made this up later, but you can check the newspapers from the second day. I said I was angry at my legislators because they had legislated me out of the right to protect myself and my family. And you can say, well, Susanna, you could have missed. Yeah, I could have. Your gun could have jammed. Well, okay, it's possible. It was a revolver, not likely, but it's possible. But the one thing you can't argue with is it would have changed the odds. I can't begin to tell you how frustrating it is to sit there and wait for it to be your turn and having no means of defending yourself. I can't imagine being in that position again and having my children or my grandchildren with me and having no way of defending them. Makes me physically ill.
Well, we now have countless cases since you went public back in 91, 92, 93, where people have at churches and everywhere else stopped gunmen. Just happened down in San Antonio. It's just happened other places just since the Sandy Hook shooting. And the media will not cover it nationally. And we see these countless local news videos of gunmen coming in trying to shoot people for no reason at shops, and concealed carry folks that know how to use them take them out. And I see the gun grabbers rushing in to try to ban guns right now because they know the gun culture and the self-defense culture is taking over society. All the top-rated TV shows, women out buying guns, liberal women's magazines, you know, show women with guns now. Not because they want guns, the liberal owners, but because they realize women have woken up. They're losing. That's why they're launching this offensive against the Second Amendment. Would you like to elaborate on that statement? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with you, but I do think that they see an opportunity here because of the Connecticut shooting. You know, it's so hard for any of us to imagine that all those little children being just executed like that. It's just you want a way.
And they put the guilt onto us. Have you ever seen such demonization of gun owners where they say we're Klan, we're Nazis, we helped kill those children when it was a gun-free zone, and the media advertising crazies go to schools and kill people. If anybody has blood on their hands, it's them.
Isn't that the truth? That's something that I've advocated for years, is for teachers to be able to carry. And, of course, here in Texas, individual schools can make that decision. My school does not allow the teachers to carry. But I can tell you that I know a few that carry anyway. They just keep their mouth shut and do it, thank God. You know, the bad guys, I don't know why people don't get this. Bad guys like that want a high body bag count. They're going to go where they think they can shoot as many people as possible without anybody shooting back at them.
Nobody knows these cowards like you. No doubt your father saved your life. Nobody knows these evil people like you, Suzanna Hupp, a survivor of the Luby's massacre, here with us, and really, you know, the grandmother of the concealed carry movement. No doubt, not to use the term grandmother like she's old, but she's the person that really started it. Thank God, and saved countless lives. Why do these cowards always commit suicide as soon as the cops show up? I mean, it just shows they really are ghoulish demons, that they all act exactly the same.
You know, I'm trying to teach my children. I have two boys, 16 and 14. And I think society in general tries to teach people that 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 these bad guys are just misunderstood, or they've had a hard life, or all the various and sundry excuses that you can come up with for them. I mean, I've actually literally had people ask me, "Why didn't you try to talk the guy down?" Like, really? I mean, I can't even argue with that. It's such a stupid statement.
Yeah, just shot your dad in the chest, and then you're going to go talk to him.
Let me go talk to this guy about his childhood. What I'm trying to teach my children is that, there certainly are criminals. I would say the vast majority of criminals in the world that were created. They did have bad childhoods and whatnot. But there's also evil. I honestly believe there is absolute evil that exists in the world.
That's my next point. Have you noticed that with Son of Sam, Ramirez, the Night Stalker, Harrison Klebold, Lanza, and the guy that just shot the firefighters, they were all admitted devil worshippers. Shouldn't we be profiling them?
I did not know that, but I'm not even slightly surprised. Maybe mildly surprised, but not shocked. How about that?
It's incredible.
Evil exists, and I believe that you must do your best to stand between evil and innocent people. And it doesn't mean, again, I want to make this clear because, I'll tell you what one of my biggest fears is, Alex. One of my biggest fears is that I'm going to be in some position that I get shot and killed by a bad guy, and I'm not able to get a round off for some reason. And I'm so afraid that the other side is going to say, see, her gun didn't help her. And I've said it a million times. It's not a guarantee. It changes the odds.
It means you're not a helpless prey animal to be fed upon by devil worshippers and psychopaths.
At least I'm not going to be an easy target. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to bloody them. They might take me out, but I'm going to do my best to put them in the hospital at the very least. Everybody's going to know who the bad guy is.
Here's the headline, Daily Mail. It's also in AP. I am the devil. Former classmate reveals school gunman had online devil worshiping page as childhood barber recounts how he never spoke and just stared at floors. And that's the shooter of the firefighters with Lanza. It's the same story. So this just goes on and on. So all of them, devil worshipers. Here it is. Satan worship, the Sandy, Hook, on and on and on. Son of Sam, Night Stalker, list goes on and on. It's amazing. In the time we have here, because I know you've got to go soon, maybe you can do 5 more minutes with us after the break to talk about your book, which I need to carry at the InfoWars online bookstore because I know it's so important. We all need to reach out to the dumbed-down people that really think turning their guns in is going to protect them. But looking at Dianne Feinstein, have you seen the testimony in Congress where she admits she has a concealed carry but doesn't want you to be able?
I have seen written quotes from it, but I have not actually seen it, no.
It's amazing, though. I mean, how can they all have bodyguards and she can be worth $100 billion, but then we're not supposed to have guns?
I remember being on CNN or one of those shows when Rosie O'Donnell, there had been some incident with one of her adopted children, and a bodyguard protected the child. And I went on the air and said, she must be horribly feel awfully silly at the moment because she's telling all of us to disarm, and most of us don't have her kind of money that we can hire personal bodyguards for our kids. And she must be terribly embarrassed. But I feel that way pretty much about Feinstein and most of them. It's just an elitist attitude. It's okay for me, but it's not for you because I don't trust you.
Well, if you notice, I've even got Christian Science Monitor admitting, I have an article that our government's trying to restrict free speech online and going the way of China. I've got an article after you leave us we're going to go over where top Georgetown professors saying, yeah, go ahead and kill old people, death panels. I mean, they're not just going after the Second Amendment. Do you see it as a big canary in the coal mine that they are this open and brazen right now?
Here's what I really think, Alex. I don't think Obama is the problem. I don't think Feinstein is the problem. I honestly believe that our public education system is the problem. Because those are the people that are growing up to run for office that think socialism and Marxism is a good thing. They're the ones that grow up and vote for the Obamas and the Feinstein. So I truly believe, you know, you and I tend to attack this, and a lot of partisans tend to attack this at the top. You know, well, we have to get so and so out of office or into office, and I really hold that the problem is down in the school system.
Have we crossed the Rubicon of becoming a collectivist society where they've got so many people domesticated? You know,
Yeah.
they're like squirrels you feed in your backyard. After a while, they don't know how to go out and get their own food.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I was talking about this last night on the radio show, in fact, on the one that I was filling in on in Austin. Yes, I unfortunately, I think we have hit the tipping point. And I think that's evidenced in this last presidential run. I just think there are now more, you know, we're a little bit sheltered here in Texas because Texas is still a pretty Republican, conservative.
I tell you what, I know you got to go, but just we're going to go to break. Come back and do 5 more minutes with us, and then we'll let you get back to work because I want to finish up with the tipping point solutions and your book, because there are ways to beat this, but it's just like in Poland, it's called noncompliance.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the InfoWar in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. And we're finishing up with an interview we're doing with Representative Suzanna Hupp, former representative, survivor of the Luby's massacre. Her book is From Luby's to the Legislature, very highly rated at Amazon in the reviews, and is really good for people out there who don't understand what's going on. We either reach out to the domesticated Obamanoids or it's over. And the collectivists are very arrogant. You know, she just said people in Texas or other more constitutional areas where the economy, by the way, is still operating because we're not socialist completely, are in a bubble. We think, oh, they'll never have government-run health care. They'll never make us pay for abortions. They'll never take over the Catholic Church and make them pay for abortions. It's all happening. They'll never do this. They'll never do that. Really, they've done this in every other country. They're following a model. And they're powerful corporate interests that want monopolies. They want a quasi-socialist system with a fascist system on top of it. And there's also some hoaxing going on where they say this is a mandate for socialism because Obama won again. No, they ran a neocon, socialist, Obamacare writing Mitt Romney. So the fix is in is the problem. Representative, I wanted to talk about your book some, but first, solutions. If we have reached the tipping point of domestication, we know the solution is wait till it rots and collapses like the Soviet Union. Well, that's going to be authoritarianism. I don't want to be sent to the Gulag Archipelago. How do we short-circuit it before it gets really, really bad?
Well, you're not going to like my answer. I guess my answer is two-pronged. Number one, we truly, truly need to get into these school systems and begin to re-teach what made America great, because they're not teaching it now. They're teaching that socialism and Marxism is good.
What do you mean I don't like your answer? Absolutely. And look, the government's taken over. It's time for us to do what the socialists did. I think people should infiltrate government and do whatever you have to get in there to report on these people and sabotage these people.
Yes, that's very well put. Well, I said that you wouldn't like it because, unfortunately, it's not a glamorous answer, and it's a slow task to make changes in the school system. The second thing that you do brilliantly is teach people to be prepared. And it used to be only us crazies that would stockpile food or stockpile water or ammunition or whatever. But now they actually have television shows about it. It's not just crazies. It's not just people that are missing 4 of their front teeth.
But our grandparents all did that. It's normal. All mammals, store some food. I mean, even grasshoppers do it, and they're insects. I mean, you're crazy to just live day to day in some supermax prison-style grid. Let me ask you this, and we'll talk about the book and let you go, and hopefully get you back soon. I have a clip in my film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, and in it, it's you talking to the head of the Psychiatry Association, and you say, why are 67% at that time of foster kids on psychotropics? And you were heading up the committee, and there was a big investigation. And he says, oh, they come from bad gene pools. Well, A, that's what Hitler said. B, they don't even do blood tests, quote, gene pools. No, they grab kids from their parents and then drug them, as doctors have said. What do you make of that? That's not liberal drugging kids. That's evil.
Yes, and in many, many, many cases, those children were on more than 3 psychotropic drugs. And many of them weren't even okay for children of the age that they were giving them to. I'm deeply concerned with the drug culture, and I don't want to badmouth all drugs. Look, I just got off a run of antibiotics for a sinus infection. But there are good drugs out there. The problem is, this is one of the things that can be tricky in a free society. We do have these enormous drug companies that push this stuff and actually get it wrapped into the government system, to where the doctors that are working on the foster kids, for instance, have to follow a particular protocol, in what drugs they use. They can't deviate from that protocol. So it's very interconnected and very difficult to unravel, quite frankly.
Well, that's right. In the public schools, it turns out, get more federal funding, the more kids are, quote, special need on the drugs. In fact, the WOAI investigation that spurred the state investigation, if you remember, found that the national average was 67% of foster children are on psychotropics, and the average child was on 7 drugs. Yes. 7 drugs. So,
yeah, which is crazy. I mean, that in and of itself is crazy. And that there is absolutely, my husband is a neuropsychologist, so I would go to him and use him for information on a regular basis. And you're right. Unfortunately, there is a financial benefit to not only the school system, but the parents. There was a kind of a negative, basically they would go in, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them would go in and say, well, this kid's creating a lot of problems for me. He really needs to be on medication. Somebody would put him on medication, and the foster family would get more money per day because of it.
And then the medication makes them worse, so the answer is not get them off drugs, get them on more. They're eating Twinkies, they're drinking Cokes with caffeine, they're eating, I mean, my children, if they get red dye or something in a candy, on vacation, we let them eat it or something, or they go crazy. And then it turns out those dyes have a drug effect. The kids are bouncing off the walls because they should be eating steak and potatoes and broccoli and exercising all day. Instead, I mean, if I drank Cokes and ate Twinkies, when I come down off of it, I've done it a few times, I want to beat the hell out of people. I mean, no wonder the kids.
Particularly young boys. Instead of, it used to amaze me to watch the teachers. They were taught to give the little boys time out. Instead of what they should be doing is telling them to go outside and run around the school 5 times.
Well, you know, public schools first got rid of dodgeball. Now most of them have banned running. So, I mean, of course, young mammals, I mean, that'd be like drugging a puppy because it runs around and chews on the other puppy.
Yeah.
I mean, baby mammals all act the same. Ma'am, you're amazing. Thank you for your time, and thank you for getting your testimony out there that the answer is more guns, less crime. Tell us briefly about your book.
I wrote that book for the average person to read and be able to make the arguments with their neighbors and friends. It's also a great book to pass on. You know who I really wrote that book for? I wrote that book for housewives that just aren't sure how they feel about guns. You know, they're not into going out and blasting Bambi, and they're just uncomfortable with things that go make a loud bang. And I understand that. I completely understand that. And I'm a mother, and I've been there. I understand. I'm not into going out and blasting Bambi either. But it's a quick, easy read, and it's for those people.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you've got 2 sons. I've got 2 daughters and a son, and I love them like life itself or more. But it is really a good feeling now that my 8-year-old is shooting and hitting bullseye at 50 yards. Well, we haven't trained the 4-year-old yet. And it's such a good feeling that my girls are tough. Sometimes they punch me when we're playing, and it really hurts. And that they're not putting up with anybody trying to rape them or attack them. And that I'm going to defend the Second Amendment, so when they go off to college or when they get married and they live, some guy busts into their apartment or into their house to try to beat them up or rape them, they're dead. And that's real empowerment. And it's not feminism, it's survival. It's basic common sense. And as I said, our culture of liberty, the women's magazines, the Austin Chronicle's been having articles about women shooting, not because the socialist anti-American Chronicle, run by a horrible guy who I know, wants to do that. They're being forced to do that if people are going to pick up their magazines. And our culture of liberty and self-empowerment is growing, and so that's why the empire is striking back. And your book breaks that down, and I hope everybody gets it and gives it to women who are anti-gun in their family or who are on the fence.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, have a great week coming up, and I always enjoy getting to hear you on 590 AM when you're filling in. God bless.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
You too. There goes former Representative Suzanna Hupp, survivor of the Luby's massacre. We're going to get her back on in a few months. Maybe even sometime have her come in and fill in. She lives near Austin. She does that for our local affiliate. Just an amazing lady. Oh, boy, I tell you.